Woohoo! All right, we're recording. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Nelson, thank you for being our special guest today. Nelson is a commercial agent in Houston, Texas. He has been licensed since 1980 and is very passionate about green real estate, sustainability, and is involved with lots and lots of things. So I'm very excited to hear from him today on everything he's involved with and his projects he's working on and kind of how he got started on all of this. So Nelson, if you want to kick it off with kind of telling us about you and your history and what your, how you got into sustainability and all that.
So I started my career right out of college. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I had a double major in real estate and finance. And I had determined by the time I graduated high school that I wanted to have a career in commercial real estate. And in Houston, we were seeing some of the most rapid growth in creation of buildings and shopping centers. And I mean, we were just on a rapid growth. And I had an awareness that that's an industry I wanted to become part of. And so I put my whole self into it. I was active with the Real Estate Society at University of Texas, and I met some leaders in real estate development. And then I ended up marrying a girl that I dated for three years in college, whose father was a developer, just so happened. He had a lot of contacts, and he was helped me get started in the industry. Really put me into contact with some really big developers and owners. So that's kind of where I started my career. And I knew that I had big aspirations for being able to build buildings and create this empire. It's a little harder than it looked, and it takes a lot more courage, financial backing, and really just, being the kind of person that's willing to take the risks and understand what it takes to create real estate projects. So I really wasn't exactly as risk taking person or had the financial credibility to do it myself. So I pretty much worked for other companies that were producing and building buildings or building shopping centers. And so I learned the business through leasing and acquisitions of new properties or development of new properties. And so most of my career has been really built on landlord owning and building a portfolio of real estate assets through leasing and ownership. And so I worked for a couple of big companies that owned over 200 shopping centers, and I had a territory that I oversaw, which included about 25 to 30 shopping centers at a time. So that's been, real estate and mostly in retail, but I did have a career of a few years of developing industrial properties. And one of the biggest leases I ever did back when I was in my 20s, we leased to Ericsson Telecommunications in Richardson, a 120,000 square foot new building we were just building. They took the whole thing. And at the time, the lease was worth probably about $8 million. And so I got a pretty good understanding of how to get bigger deals and attract tenants and that sort of thing. But I also recognize that you got to maintain good low operating costs to make any money. You just do. And so keeping operating costs down by using efficient equipment and making sure, that, you're not being wasteful can really make a difference on the value of the property, the value of, somebody's willingness to pay for it. So that's kind of where I've always been. I got excited about a new product about 8 years ago that was pretty much brand new. About 10 years ago, it was introduced, and it's a financing product that's applicable mostly in commercial. In some cases, in Florida and in California, there's residential PACE. It's called Property Assessed Clean Energy. So Property Assessed Clean Energy is a strategy to shift some of the payback responsibility from the owner to the property itself. So it's like a mud tax or whatever. So basically, you can create energy saving projects as long as they can save as much as they cost over the course of the period of ownership. Not the period of ownership, the useful life. So if you put in new air conditioning, new roof, new lighting, new insulation, a lot of that stuff, you can take the average useful life of those improvements, could be 20 to 25 years. And you can put that into a property assessed clean energy financing loan that's transfers from one owner to the next without having to qualify. And so it creates lower cost of capital than having to use your own money and less risk. So I got involved in that very early on, and it had its challenges. It's a great idea, but it's a little bit costly to implement, and it has a lot of reasons why it makes a lot of sense. But money's been plentiful and money's been cheap, and so people didn't really want to go through the extra hoops to get the benefits. More recently, now that money's tighter, underwriting's tighter, equity requirements are higher, and much of the lenders are more risk averse. So PACE is really coming along, and it's starting to become a more important part of my business right now, is facilitating PACE financing projects. But that's kind of how I got involved, and I started to volunteer. Actually, I was introduced to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development at a Rice University symposium. And I was very interested to just be involved in a world organization that cared about sustainable development. And I got involved in a committee, a communications committee. And I met a lot of diverse people that were interested. And which led me to be invited to be on the regional council for United States Green Building Council. And so I've been serving as a volunteer on the council, kind of a real estate rep, because most of the people in that organization are engineers, architects, contractors, that sort of thing. They're not really the building owner type, but they needed that perspective. So I tried to fill that void and bring the messages of clean energy and green building ideas to the real estate community in the home. And so, that's led me to be active, now in the leadership role. And I like that because I think that we're at a very important time. Things that are happening there, it was good to save the whales and hug the trees. I mean, that's great. I love that. But it's all about money when it comes to real estate and business. It's all about money. And so the paradigm has always been, yeah, it'd be nice to do that kind of stuff, but if it costs too much, and I want to build the lowest cost project that I can under, like the building codes. Lowest, cheap as I can build it, that's what I want to build. But building cheap buildings creates a lot of burdens on society that hadn't been accounted for. But it's now more able to be tracked. And so we're trying to really just match up transparency for how are you performing and who's paying for it. And, if the society's paying for it, we need to shift that burden to the owner to pay for it, fix it so that it's not doing that. And there's much more transparency tools of being able to do that now than there ever have been. Big data and AI and stuff like that are creating abilities to verify information, extrapolate information on, based on certain information, we can pretty much know you're performing at this level. And then how do we improve that to it's performing at a high level? And what are the benefits of that? What are the impacts of that? So that's kind of where I formed a relationship with some people that do different pillars of ESG and impact analysis and that sort of thing, and trying to apply that into how does that work for real estate owners? How do we present them a strategy, a plan that actually delivers money saving ideas.
Yeah. And how do you apply sustainability in your personal life?
Um, you know, I am not that. I mean, I know people that are real strict about recycling, or using, you know not wasting a lot, using a lot of plastics and that sort of thing. And I'm aware, when I'm doing things that are not healthy for the planet, and I try and make choices that are better for the planet. But my choices are mostly in just trying to bring more awareness to how much actually, I don't know if you even realize it, but 40% of all the emissions that are measured are as a result of buildings. 40%. And that's transportation and everything else. And so the real estate industry can easily do things, make small changes that make big impacts. And so we need to just be able to show people those things they can do and the impacts that they have.
Which is like a really good point that you made, and why it's so important that people are getting involved. And by people, I mean real estate agents are getting involved in the green movement, because that 40% number, like, we have such power to make a difference in the world by educating homeowners, real estate owners on how to make their homes more energy efficient, how to make their businesses more energy efficient, and ultimately save everyone money, because that's like top of everyone's mind, especially in this economy, is everyone wants to save money. And so how can you do both and reduce that 40% number? So you made a really good point there, and I love that. How do you?
One other point to know is that 30% of all the energy that's produced is wasted.
Yeah.
Transmission between where it's produced, transmitted over the lines, and then the wasted at the user level. There's so much ability to improve the efficiency and redirect those inefficiencies into paying for better infrastructure, more resilient infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. So where would you say you've gotten like your education on all of this? Like, where have you gotten your information that you apply towards your real estate business as far as sustainability, green? Where have you gotten that? Is it just kind of accumulated over time that you've attended different conferences, read books, or whatever? Like, where have you gotten this kind of information that, like, if someone was in this right now and they're like, I really want to be more involved, but I just don't know where to get this information from, like, where would you direct them to get that information?
Well, I will say that when I go into U.S. Green Building Council meetings and go into there's a lot of people who know a whole lot more than me. I mean, a whole lot more than me. I don't even care to know some of the things they know, because it just clutters my mind. I just want to know, what are the results? How do I get to the good results, and what does it take? Who do I need to call? And so there's like Energy Star and the Department of Energy and EPA and U.S. Green Building Council have such a deep library of subject matter, webinars and all of that. And then collaborating with the multiple organizations that the real estate has in different industries. So, for instance, you've got the office building industry, you've got the industrial and manufacturing industries, you've got retail, you got multifamily, you've got senior housing, you've got hotel, motel. There's just so many avenues of self-storage. So there's so many aspects of commercial real estate. And you can't really know it all, but you got to kind of get a networking group together, people you can trust. And so when I have somebody that's doing multifamily, I've been working with this guy for 25, 30 years. He's the guy. I mean, when I have a multifamily question, I don't have to know. I just call him and involve him. And we've made some great sales together. I had a great industrial partner that And I've had land development guys, where I get a listing or someone wants to hire me to do the listing, but it's not really what I do. I'm not the expert. So I'll bring in an expert to co-broker with me, and I'll be the key person that they'll reach out to, or I'll coordinate the meetings. But I want to make sure the best person on the job is doing the job. And I'd rather take less and have more deals for sure. But that's where I pride myself as being a great quarterback, pulling together a team of solutions. So if any guys got a project to do, I know the people to call, and I can deliver the results they want. That's all they want.
Mm-hmm. Keith, you have a question?
Yeah. Hey, Nelson, when you talked about PACE financing, and then you talked about having all these mentors that helped you on these other types of projects, for some agents in EXP, especially commercial agents, if they needed a mentor for PACE financing, are you able to work with them outside of Texas? Is that something you could do across the 50
Absolutely.
states?
Matter of fact, yes, I have a PACE lending. I got in the business and worked as a PACE financing lender under a company called PACE Equity, national company, and they're very good at their craft. But one of my colleagues, who was, I thought, a competitor, became more like a facilitator, and he would solicit proposals from 4 or 5 different companies on projects. So he kind of know one company that liked to do hotels, one company that liked to do smaller deals and nonprofit type of deals, and some people that would like to do massive, 100 million plus kind of deals. Not everybody fits in the category of what they want to do or how good they are. But so knowing how to put the right lender that likes that kind of product type and knows it, or the a few of them, and have them compete, so that they're not. It's a complicated pathway, because to do PACE, you have to have an energy model, and then you have to have a third party reviewer sign off on it, and has to be an engineer. So there's some extra costs in getting it done by having third parties model it, figure out the project, getting it approved for how much you get. So CPACE in Texas, and it's pretty much this way around the country, is you can finance up to about 25% of the total stabilized value of a renovation project. So in qualifying water, if it saves water or energy, or it produces energy, like clean energy, any of those things, or any of the costs that are associated with the equipment that produces that, up to about 25% of the total value of the property. And then with a maximum of 80% of total financing. So if you had other financing, you can't exceed 80% total financing.
Oh,
But
did that financing layer on top of or affect the Inflation Reduction Act monies, the incentives?
so there is a lot of incentives that are available. They come from federal, state, local, manufacturers, just areas that are incentivizing development. So there's a lot of different programs. The federal government has the Inflation Reduction Act, which has several avenues of financing, or shall I say incentives. So yes, you can, as long as the project can show a savings to investment ratio of 1. So it saves as much as it costs over the 25-year period. And as long as it saves as much as it can cost, and it's verified by a third party engineer, then you can put it in place. I'm just kind of getting long-winded, and I kind of lost what was the question you asked me?
I just wondered how the the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act incentives would go in. I mean, could you use both PACE
Oh,
and
absolutely. Matter of fact, stacking all your incentives to reduce the cost is one of the key strategies. So, but in some cases, you can get PACE financing and then uh, get a rebate or reduction of taxes or rebates and not even have to apply it against the loan. So you can pocket it. It's a great financial incentive for an individual to undertake if they know what they're doing or they hire the right people to help them get the best results.
very cool.
Can you give like a short, like very simple explanation of what PACE financing is for those of us that are on the call that don't know what that is, like me?
Yeah, so property assessed clean energy is a strategy like a MUD, municipal water district, utility district, where a whole neighborhood might go in to buy a bond to pay for all the infrastructure, and then it's paid back over the course of maybe 30 years in a tax. So your tax, you'll get a line item on your tax bill that pays for your water district in some developing areas. And so if you sell the property, the next property owner takes on that debt too. And they don't pay it off. It just transfers from one property to the next. So that's the capability of doing PACE, is it creates a special utility infrastructure tax that replaces it's financing, but it's superior financing in a certain way, because it gets paid back first, but it only gets paid back like a tax, the annual amount. So if you invest $1 million in the infrastructure of a building, and for over 20 years, then all that's ever due is $50,000 a year for 20 years. So if you get behind and your property goes into non-payment, then you can't foreclose and pay off the $1 million. Just the amount that's due, past due, has to be paid. And so it creates, lenders really have not really welcomed it at first. They just don't want anything in the way of their first lien. And if you can show them that they're reducing their ownership risk, because a well-performing building is going to have less economic risk of a breakdown and a repair when there's no money to repair it.
Cool.
Really cool project right here. Well, about an hour south of me in Montrose, Mayfly Outdoors got $1 million from PACE to build their new headquarters out in Montrose, Colorado. Pretty cool.
It's a great program. It's taken a while to take off, but it's definitely taking off. And that's not the only finance strategy. That's one good one, and it's not everybody wants to go down that route. There's another, and this only applies in areas that have competitive utility markets. If it's a utility market that's dominated by a monopoly, it doesn't really work. But there's a few companies like Constellation Energy and NG and a few others that'll actually sign a contract with you for 5 to 7 years of an energy contract. It's a very attractive contract. And if you want to do improvements in your air conditioning, your lighting, or other things that are going to save energy, they'll pay for it and then put it as a payment on your energy bill. And then you don't have to get approval from your lender or anything like that. They know that if you don't pay, they'll shut off your lights. So people pay, and it works. And they get all the benefits too. The owner of, even though they didn't pay for it, like PACE, if they didn't really pay for it, they still get the tax benefits. They still take the depreciation and get the tax credits in certain cases. So it's a very lucrative plan.
And you're involved with the company Incentifind, right?
I'll say I'm a sales affiliate. I think it's a great concept. Now I found out about the incentives years before the Inflation Reduction Act. And it was kind of a national website called Desire, DESIRE. And it would outline some of the major incentives that you could qualify for and how to reach out to them. I thought that was good. But when I learned about Incentive Find, they do a lot of research on every district and every incentive, so they can actually build a custom report based on your tax ID, record, and you'll find out if you qualify for say new market tax credits or um, food desert credits, or historical credits, or there's just a whole kind of thing you may not know, but it'll research all the tax credits and tax deductions you're entitled to, and manufacturer incentives and all of that. So you have to buy the report, and then they've got residential reports and commercial reports. The commercial report on a one-off is about $500 to get that report. Residential, I think it's only about 25 or 30, but it gives you an identification of the incentives and a pathway to how to harvest them. And so, that's not everybody knows how to do that or is willing to take the time to do it, but they'll actually do it for the bigger deals, not on a one-off residential, but in the commercial, they have apply services that they'll actually, you sign off to them to be your company representative, and they'll get all the tax all the incentives, not tax, non-cash and cash incentives, and they'll take a share of it, like 25%. And they share that with the agent, like 5% to the agent and 20% to them. So it's a pretty good deal. And then on the tax incentives, that's a whole avenue of real estate. If you're doing cost segregation or 179D, if you're doing it's not coming to me real quick. I had a whole thing here I was kind of ready to talk about. Yeah, okay. So you have 179D qualified improvement property. You've got the tangible property regulations and that sort of thing that you have to use a CPA or an engineer to really get you your best credits, and apply them. But we have a company called CSSI Services that does all of that for owners, and so that's part of helping people make their best economic case for doing sustainable projects.
I really like Incentive Find for the idea of like maybe a closing gift or just like a guaranteed, like, hey, you work with me, I will get this report for you, because I think a lot of what's holding agents back from getting more involved with green real estate is just not having the information, or not knowing where to find the information, not having the education, and not being able to pass it on to their clients. Or like John and I were talking earlier, a lot of agents don't even think that homeowners have green features or care about it. And the NAR sustainability report actually tells that differently. And I can't remember the exact stats. Maybe Keith remembers the discrepancy between agents thinking homeowners want green features and homeowners actually wanting green features. There's a discrepancy there. And I think the important part of it, going back to where Incentive Find is, if you can offer this report to your clients, and I'm talking mostly in a residential space right now, but if you could offer this report to your clients and say, hey, here's this report, this tells you all of the cost savings that you can do for your home. And I didn't have to find that information because frankly, I don't have time and I don't know where to look for all the things, right? So if I could just give them this report, which is not that much money for residential, and that could be the closing gift or whatever, and it's the gift that keeps giving. And it's all about saving homeowners money, because that's people's biggest motivation, I think, when it comes to green features and all that. Like, yes, people love the planet, but if it can save them money, that's when they're actually going to take action on it. So I love the Incentive Find idea, and I'm definitely going to be applying that to my business for sure.
I'm doing my first one next week.
For a client or for yourself, or?
Two, one for me and one for a client.
Okay.
Can
Let
you
us know how
share?
that goes.
Yeah, can you share what that is, Keith? Are you able to share that or what?
When I do it, we'll share it. Yeah, I'm doing one for my house. I spoke to you guys earlier, 1935 house built by the government for settlers they took from the Dust Bowl and put out in Western Colorado. And it's kind of leaky and got issues that we need to take care of. And then the other house is 2001 build. The roof needs to be replaced. He's going to put a metal roof on it and solar and see what else he can do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to hear how all that goes and what the report looks like and all that. So if you could share that with us, that'd be great.
Well, Nelson facilitated a meeting with those guys in our leadership, and they're great guys. This is just the first opportunity I've had to do anything with them. Susan McLean, who is one of our leaders in this sustainability drive, did one for her place.
Yep. And Susan is actually going to be the special guest on the Eco-Symposium next week. So
Nice.
to make sure we ask her about that. So I know. And her container home, because she's building a container home, which will be really fun.
Hopefully on a good day, because there's always good days and bad days during construction.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a positive day.
A container home with 6 containers. So that's a large project.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Where is that building?
She lives in Indiana, I think.
Yeah, Indiana. That sounds right.
Indiana.
Nice.
She sent us a picture in a different group chat about 2 weeks ago, the day that they were bringing and putting the container homes on the foundations. So she had concrete foundations, and she had a little hillside where she lives. It looks like so there's some elevation changes and how she's going to put those containers. It's a fantastic project. I can't wait. I can't wait to fly there for her housewarming party.
Wow, that's nice.
We
I went
invited
to Puerto
Paula
Rico
to
once.
her house.
Yeah, I went to Puerto Rico once, and I saw a home being built also with containers, and I was blown away. It was right on. I want to say it was near Cabo Rojo, Red Cape, I guess. It was incredible. Yeah, but they were still, building it. So I would love to go back and see it. Now, question for Nelson. This is, I guess, going back to commercial. Now, what, and I'm new to sustainability, to energy, clean energy. So excuse my ignorance. So what constitutes a green building, right? Or what is what makes it a green building? Is there a percentage to what sort of energy saving there needs to be? Just curious.
That's a good question. I think that like if you were to try and get a certification with Energy Star, then you have to perform at a certain level. Out of 100 points, you have to be at least 70. So that would indicate a higher performing overall score of performance of a project in energy use and water use. That would determine whether it qualifies as a green project or not. And there are different. If you're actually trying to get a LEED score from USGBC, you'd have to reach certain elements of verification that you're performing at a highest enough level to get awarded a certification. So
that's interesting. Thank you. And so another question. So there's a lot of buildings now that are actually being I guess they're emptied, and because of the pandemic right now, a lot of people are working remote. If those were to be to become or how do we say
repurpose?
Repurpose into residential, would that be some sort of
well, I will tell you that highest and best use changes depending on population needs and wants, and what was the highest and best use in some projects aren't anymore. So a lot of there's a very high demand for housing, and especially affordable housing, and not a great supply. And so a lot of the structures that are non-conforming in the right locations could be repurposed for multifamily, and are in some cases. But that there's a lot of diminution of value from where it was to creating something new, and there might be a large investment. So, you know, it's not easy for somebody to acknowledge that their property's dead or dying, and they got to totally gut it down and repurpose it, because somebody's losing money in that venture. But it is what it is. You know, at some point, a project's either, you know, successful or not successful. And if it's not successful, you know, it dies, and something else has to become, whether it gets torn down and repurposed, that happens. Or if you can use the existing infrastructure and build something in a new purpose that is cost effective, and that's always a good idea, because it's better for the planet than to have to tear everything out and carry it off to the dump, or, you know,
Right.
you know, that's and then bring more stuff in and put more stuff on, you know. I mean, it's all a lot of carbon doing that. So yes, you know, there's a lot of economic reasons for repurposing existing buildings. And I'd say 2050 is projected that 80% of the buildings that are in place right now are going to be around still in 2050. So there's going to be a lot of repurposing of existing assets.
That's good.
Yeah, that was a good question, Paula. And
Okay.
it made me think, like, because obviously there's like economic, you know, reasons behind repurposing so that people can continue to make money, right? Like that's always everyone's goal. But like, how many wasted spaces are there out there that are just not even being used at all, that could be used for something? And it reminded me of in Detroit, and I learned this on the Zac Efron series on Netflix, the Down to Earth series with Zac Efron. And they go to Detroit, and there's a bunch of vacant lots in Detroit that are just like vacant lots or abandoned lots. And I don't know who owns them, or if no one owns them at this point, I don't really know, but a lot of people have started turning them into like small mini farms. And so they're growing fresh food, like vegetables, fruits, that's serving the low-income communities around that empty lot. And so these people are getting healthy food for free, because people have volunteered their time and skills to grow these little garden areas, like community gardens. And I'm like, that's awesome, because that's just a vacant piece of land that's not being used for anything. And people can't always afford to get themselves quality nutrition. And so these vacant lots are being used for new things. And I love that. So that kind of gave me that reminded me of that, where it's like, well, if there's a vacant something, might as well turn it into something positive. And yeah, a commercial building could be turned into residential, and that could help with, you know, the affordable housing crisis or anything like that. So I'm all about that. I love that. And I would so much rather see it, unless it was like in really bad condition or something like that, but I would so much rather see it be transformed into something new rather than torn down and something new built, because that's something I think of. And maybe Nelson, you've got some perspective on this, but there's so much waste going into construction, whether it's you're just building something from scratch or you're tearing something down and building new. I'm like, that is so wasteful. And I'm not naive enough to, you know, think that stuff shouldn't be torn down, because sometimes it calls for that, you know, but I also think that sometimes we could probably repurpose things a little bit more, you know what I mean? So do you have any perspective on that, Nelson, of like reducing waste in real estate, like construction wise, whether that's commercial or anything like that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, so measuring carbon, there's embodied carbon, which means how much carbon does it take to build the building, and how much is it existing in the building. So removing it is removing, not removing carbon, it's just transporting it somewhere else. So to replace a new asset on a project that you tore down and had to haul off is costs a lot more carbon than repurposing the carbon that's already been deployed. So if if you find a way to not tear it down hard off and not have to bring new materials, then that has a very positive impact on the overall carbon footprint of that property. And so, yes, and those things have value. The carbon credits, for instance, that saved by not having to bring more carbon and waste all that carbon. It all comes into a carbon calculation that could be traded on the market for a carbon credit value. And so that's kind of an aspect of when we're all focused on reducing carbon and net zero and all that stuff. Some of the carbon you have to buy from other sources in order to get the project to be net zero. So you can create credits that are transferable and help the planet make better, use their resources better in various ways. So that's an emerging industry that I have some collaborative partners that are active in that.
Can you talk more about carbon credit and net zero and that for people that might not know what that is or how that works or anything? Can you talk more about that?
Well, there's various credits that the federal government will pay for carbon reduction. They're mostly focused on energy companies to capture carbon that's being put into the atmosphere, trying to contain it and put it in somewhere and measure that and then sell that credit on the market for somebody that wants to show that their project is carbon neutral or net carbon zero. And that's an emerging market. And it goes in a lot of different directions. In the real estate business, it hasn't really been focused on that much, but we have capabilities of measuring that where we didn't before. So, having an ability to take a project and compare it against a scrap and rebuild something new, and you compare the credits the carbon that you're saving in terms of how much, you might be able to monetize that by selling the carbon credits into somebody else. And it's usually done by a third-party platform trader, like a trading platform, like a stock exchange.
Wow. There's so many aspects.
Carbon exchange, but yeah, somebody's got to host it and verify it, and it can't, it's got to be proven to be accurate enough. You can't just be buying BS. There's been some of that in the industry, but that's what's the transparency aspect of everything is just getting greater because of the AI and big data and access to data.
Yeah. So would you say that being involved in sustainability, green real estate, all the things, would you say that's helped grow your business? Like, do people come to work with you because you are passionate about this and you're knowledgeable in this? And how would you say that you're growing your business from a sustainability standpoint?
I wish I had an answer that would be inspiring. But the truth of the matter is that it's a personal passion and it's a drive of purpose, seeing a big need in the market and trying to be a catalyst. And it's not an easy job. It's not doesn't pay fast. I didn't do it and all of a sudden I'm making millions. I've had to really focus on my real estate transactions as my income, and green sustainability is my passion. And they haven't necessarily made that connection where now that I'm doing that, I'm doing better. I'm having to still push hard to make awareness to the people that could benefit by taking a look at something they hadn't done before. A lot of times they're not aware of it. They hadn't heard of it. They kind of look at it. You show them a model of, hey, you do this and here's kind of the outcomes you're going to get. They're like, really? Yeah, we could do that. So yeah, I've just involved a project owner that is actually doing, they were buying poor quality hotels and low income hotels and converting them to multifamily, fixing them up, making it longer term, not overnight or not um, having kitchens and equipment and stuff like that where people can live in them, and then make it affordable by paying for their cable, their water, their utility, all that stuff. And so people will pay one price and get a whole, this is what it costs me to occupy this property and get a 6-month year lease, reasonably. We showed them how we could save them a ton of money on their water and a ton of money on their electricity, and even create solar carport and some roof solar, and create a lot of the energy that they're buying and creating that for their own property. And we're putting a PACE loan on it. It's about 70% of their renovation costs, and we're showing them the tax benefits of what's available to them, and it's made a huge difference on their bottom line. They're a great customer, and we're rolling that out among other customers. But we're pretty much at the beginning of having successful stories.
That's awesome. And what if you could like wave your magic wand and just paint a picture of what you want the green real estate industry to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, what would be your like perfect picture that you could paint of like if everything went the way you wanted it to look, what would the industry look like to you? Tough question.
Yeah. From the magic wand idea that I would put to use in EXP, for instance, for me, would be to roll out a solution program that people resonate with and say, hey, I want to engage this group because they have the lowest hanging fruit and the best pathway for profitability for me. And promoting that in the real estate business and helping more people that are agents that are not necessarily that familiar. Just know, hey, I know where to go if someone wants this, or how do I engage somebody that's buying and say, hey, once you buy this property, if you renovate certain things, you're going to get better outcome and create more value. And I can show you that pathway. I'm training people how to engage with those tools and technologies and best practices that'll get them there. But then over 5 to 10 years, hopefully that'll be important to any transaction, from the buyer, to make sure that it's performing and can get insurance and can get funding and is resilient and has, backup power, whatever, efficient management. So, it's just putting to use new technologies and best practices as they evolve, so that we're just living with less waste and better resilience.
Yeah, I love that.
Resiliency.
That word keeps coming up, doesn't it?
It's the big hanging fruit for me right now is resiliency. There's just so many things that it connects the dot. That's the, when talking, like in a presentation like this or a conversation like this, or if you're writing something, or if you're explaining it to a customer somehow, it's not easy to dummy down the conversation of sustainability, because there's just, how many tentacles of sustainability are there? There's hundreds, and everyone has their pom-pom on for whatever their bias is, whether for solar or green living or whatever. But resiliency is, I think that conversation is rising to the top. The definition of it is very crystal clear.
So one of my collaborative partners is he owns an organization called the Resilience Resources, Resilience. Anyway, he's been involved from a high level government and understanding FEMA and the companies that are the reinsurance companies that insure the insurance companies, and the actuarial companies that identify what is the risk that we're taking and how much should we charge for premiums and all that stuff. And that's being upended in a way that every year you can't predict how much climate risk payouts are going to have. And so it's getting worse and worse, and some areas aren't being able to get insurance, and some areas are having much higher rates. I mean, insurance rates have gone probably up 30% in the last 2 to 3 years, and it's continuing to go up. And the mortgage companies are having better data to be able to verify what is their risk. You know, putting a mortgage on a property that has high climate risk, and so they're wanting to be able to compare areas that are lower risk or have better resiliency features. And so this group is developing an organization called Future Proofing America, which is modeled after a Florida community called Babcock Ranch. You familiar with Babcock Ranch?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So Babcock Ranch has probably one of the most resilient residential communities in the face of hurricanes, withstand the hurricanes. They're still there after, and they're not getting blown down because of the way they're built. So improving the infrastructure in ways that are going to reduce the risk of the insurance companies and the government having to pay large amounts of money. They're creating what they're called resiliency bonds, and they're trying to raise insurance funding to pay for some of those improvements up front, like a PACE loan, so where it'll help reduce the cost of insurance payments in the future, or FEMA payments. And so that's the whole thing going on that's having a big impact. And I've got my group is pretty involved with Future Proofing America on that, but it's still in the formative stages.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, this was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Nelson. This was really awesome. Glad to have you. Oh, Azumi, you got a question? Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Izumi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, good to see you.
I just couldn't wait to be on this call today, but I had to go to inspection. So I was in and out, but good to see you guys. And Nelson, I whatever I heard, the bits and pieces that I heard was just really what I wanted to learn. So I'm looking forward to listening to the recording, and may I reach out to you?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Keith and John.
Good to see you,
And
Izumi.
Katie. Yeah,
Glad you're here.
thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this was great. I'm so glad that this is a really good attendance today. Thank you all for being here. This makes me so happy to see everyone here. Next week, we're going to have Susan McLean be the guest speaker. She is, what is her title these days? She just changed positions.
Vice President of Growth?
Yeah, VP of Growth for EXP.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is leading the charge for our green division, the new sustainability
I
division.
thought Michael Valdez was the VP of Growth.
Well, she's there. She's next to it somehow.
Something like that. I can't remember. Or is it VP of People? I can't remember what her title is.
Either way, bravo to her. That's not easy to get at those kind of positions.
Yeah. So she's kind of leading the charge for the new green division that EXP is building. So we're super excited to have her on and kind of hear her perspective on everything. Angelina, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I'm an AAC for New Jersey. I don't know if you guys know what that is, the State Advisory Council. And one of our fellow members was looking to organize a beach cleanup. And I was like, maybe we could incorporate that into our event, whoever lives within a certain radius. I don't want to take over the meeting. I just wanted to we could segue that offline or discuss it at a future meeting. But I thought our beaches need some cleanup. And at least where I live, it's summer. Tomorrow it starts. And yeah, happy to connect you to her, or I can be the liaison or whatever. And maybe we can make it more than just a New Jersey thing and make it more of a global thing. So
Yes.
Love
answer
that.
is yes.
Love that. Actually, Angelina, Paula and I were meeting last week, and for Boca Raton, she's thinking about doing something in the month of July, right, Paula, for some beach cleanup stuff, I think?
Yes, I actually have it already approved by the city. So I
Yoo-hoo!
have a date. It's going to be July 13th, Saturday. So I'm about to work on my advertising so I can push it out invitation. So I can push out invitations to my circle, and
Yeah.
so we'll see.
That's
Cool.
amazing. Send me the details and I'll advertise it with Can as well.
All right.
And I'd be happy to do that. And same with you, Angelina, with your friend who wants to put that together. I'm all about that. And then what I think would be really cool is if you guys could kind of like, I don't know, not necessarily like take extensive notes, but kind of a blueprint on if someone else wanted to do this in their state, how they can do it too. And then that would be really valuable for people in Can to be able to do this in the future as well. Like I wouldn't have even thought that you had to have city approval. Wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I would have just gone and cleaned up the beach. That makes sense. You should probably get permission. So just stuff like that.
I thought of the same thing. And you know what? They told me that if you're a small group, probably, I don't know, maybe if you're just going by yourself and maybe up to 10 people, they have behind the lifeguards area, they have buckets. So you can just grab a bucket and, go crazy cleanup. But, since we wanted to invite a big group, so I'm hoping I have a big, crowd, probably up to, I don't know, 50, 70 people. We'll see.
That'd be
So,
awesome.
hopefully, that's my goal. So we'll see. So
Awesome.
yeah, I needed to get some permission, and so I got it. So thank you.
That would be awesome.
It's exciting.
To leave on that note, that, Angelina, this is your first time here, but I've been interviewing, well, I called over a dozen, almost 24 agents around the country. And the one question they all have is, how do I use this green thing? If no seller has green features and there's no buyers that have green features or benefits, it's irrelevant. That's not the conversation we as agents need to grow our green business. What we need to do is do what Paola, Angelina, what you're doing, put these type of events on and get your face into your community about someone who's creating these things. And you're doing these, ABC of these good efforts, and you're getting other people to see the benefit of it. And people will start to recognize you as a leader, and that generates referrals, and it grows your real estate business, and you're doing it sustainably. And that's the key point.
Yep. It's all about meeting more people and getting your name out there, getting your face out there. Everyone's like, where do I find new clients? How do I find clients? I'm like, I don't know. Are you sitting at home or are you out meeting people? And this is a great way to meet people in a very natural way that fills your cup. And I think that's amazing.
Exactly.
I will say that when you ask that question, how have I used sustainability to build my business? It's a great way to have a conversation with somebody in a way that's not transactional necessarily. You have to develop a rapport and a trust with your client that you care and something that they don't know that you can help them with. And so it's an avenue that you kind of earn their respect and their ability to trust you to take a listing or to represent them. But you don't earn that by just calling and asking. You have to have something that makes you stand out. So I think if you're passionate about it and it helps drive your purpose, that'll help you grow your business.
100%. And John, you got something?
One more 30 seconds story. You ready or no?
Yeah, go for it.
The last 2 weekends, I've taken my gimbal and my iPhone, and I have a long surf skateboard. I go down to the boardwalk in Delray Beach, and I just skateboard up and down. It's about a mile each way, and I do that about 3 times. So it's about 6 miles, and I simply just, hey, how you doing? You want to be on a video? I start introducing myself. I hand out business cards. I'm doing a video for Delray Beach because it won this beach thing. And I also do cleanup. And I'm just here, to be an advocate evangelist for Delray Beach. And I've gotten so many people who want to be on my video. This week, I've had 2 phone calls from people say, you know what, that was so cool. My so-and-so neighbor is thinking about selling their house. Here's their phone number.
Wow.
Because what it is just you going out there, being different as a real estate agent, being outwardly friendly, and just kind of getting people engaged. All it is kind of putting yourself out there just a little bit, and it's about recognition. And the conversation always came back to somehow green, cleaning the beach, blah, 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 blah. So that's all I can say.
That. I love that. I was going to add that I hope to see you all at EXPCon in October in Miami, because CAN is planning a beach cleanup for EXPCon. So hopefully we can all get together, hang out at the beach, clean up the beach together, and actually see each other IRL. So that'd be super fun. Well, awesome. Cool. So this was really fun. Loved this. Always great conversation. Always leave feeling revved up and wanting to go do more to build my green business. So super exciting to have you all here today. Thank you very much for attending. This is going to be put up on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. So if you want to refer back to things that were discussed, or you're watching the replay, it'll be up there. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Nelson. That was
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
next week. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Katie, how soon is it going to be up on the recording site?
Probably either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Good. See ya.
Bye.